Welcome back to Riley's Collection. Today we're doing how to pose on this guy right here. Okay guys, so the first pose that we're gonna do with this Captain America is a shield throwing pose. So we're gonna need his throwing hand, move the torso joint like this, and then bring the head over. We're gonna want his arm up like this, move it over to the side because he's gonna be throwing it. We want his arm moving this way, kind of like up this way to give the effect that he's throwing something. This arm we're gonna move back, bend that in a little bit. We're gonna move his left leg forward like this, bend that knee in, and then for the back leg, we're gonna move that as far back as we can. We're not actually gonna have his foot flat on the ground. We're gonna try and balance him on his toe and the flat of his other foot. And that's gonna give the effect that he is sort of stepping into his shield throw. Then we need to grab a flight stand to put the shield on. Grab our shield, we can put that on. And we want it angled forward to hide the stand. And here we have Captain America in the first pose, looking pretty cool. Now what you can do here, right, is you can take a picture of this, right, and then you see how the shield is out of focus. If you shift the focus to the shield then and take a picture of that, you can cut out both of these photos and edit them together so you have one complete photo where everything's in focus. If you wanted to, you could have a bunch of enemies like right in the front, kind of like getting knocked back by the shield. I think that would be a really cool shot. It's a fairly simple pose, but a very effective one. I think the hardest part is just going to be balancing him on that back foot. If you don't get it just right, he will fall over, but it's not too difficult to achieve. But with that said, let's move on to the next one. Okay, so for this next pose, we're gonna have him kind of running forward and punching somebody. We're gonna move his arm up like this, just like in the last pose, because he's gonna be punching somebody. This arm we want thrown back, slight bend, not too much of a bend. So you want it to look kind of like that. Then his left leg, we're gonna move all the way forward now. The legs don't move a ton forward, so this pose is gonna be a little bit tricky to get just right. This leg is gonna be bent at the knee. We've got him in this running pose right here. The head isn't going to be able to look up all the way, so what we're going to need to do is pop that off halfway, put it on there, just like the Renew Your Vows Spider-Man when we did that video. You can see there it's not all the way on there, but when you look at it from the front, it looks much better. And then you just got to get him to balance on his foot like that. And here's our second pose here. As you can see, I have Captain America kind of running forward and punching Hammerhead in the face, and it looks really cool. A lot of action in this shot. It's very kinetic. Having a lot of movement in a shot can really make it pop and bring it to life. This one is going to be kind of difficult to set up because you do have to get Captain America to balance there, and that's no easy task because his ankles are a little loosey-goosey, but you can get it done if you're dedicated enough. And then I just have Hammerhead on a flight stand there, so nothing too difficult about that part. But yeah, it looks really solid. Let's move on to the next one. So for this next pose, we're gonna have Captain America blocking an attack with his shield. We're gonna need to use the clip end of the shield, move the right leg up like this and have it bent in, foot flat. His other leg, we're gonna have him kneeling down. Then we're gonna move the diaphragm joint over like this and kind of push it forward as much as you can. It doesn't have too much range, but it does go forward a little bit. And then we can move up this arm and then this arm back, then in, just like that. Then we can take our shield and we're not going to clip it onto the wrist. We're going to clip this onto the hand because it doesn't cause any stress on the clip. I've heard a ton of people talking about how it's super easy to break this clip, so be super careful with that. But that's how I clip it on because that seems to be working. Just be really, really careful with that. And then you should have something that looks like this. And there we have Captain America in our third pose, fending off an attack. I kind of set up Iron Man here just to give you a visual of what this would kind of look like with another figure in the mix, and it looks pretty good. I do think though that the hips should be a little bit better, and if they were, you could get his kneeling to be a little bit better, a little bit more natural looking. But because you can't lift the legs up anymore at the hip, hips. It does look a little bit awkward, but I'm sure you could hide that with the right angles, so it's not too huge of a deal. Also, his diaphragm is pretty limited, so that also contributes to that awkwardness a little bit. But ultimately, you can still get him to do it. Maybe not as well as some other Marvel Legends, but he still can do it. But with that said, let's move on to the last pose. So for this last pose, we're gonna have him kind of vaulting himself over something, maybe like a fence or a wall or something like that. So what we're gonna do is we're actually gonna start with the legs. We're gonna move his right leg out like this and point the toe out, and then the left leg, we're gonna bring also out a little bit, but we're gonna bend it inward. Then the diaphragm, we're gonna move to the side like this and then twist in a little bit. We need him looking this way. His arm needs to be out like this. The head, we're actually gonna pop off again and half it on there so we can get him to look forward and up a little bit more. Then if we go to the hip joint, the farther you move this inward, right? You see that little opening there? The more forward you can have this foot right here. And we want it as push forward this way as possible. And then his arm in the back here, we're just gonna have that out, bend it in, just like that. Then we need something for him to jump over, so I have this wall here, and we're also gonna need a flight stand. So how I like to do this is you can clip the stand onto his foot in the back here, right? And then you wanna have him sort of balanced on that point and also on his hand. Pretty simple and easy. You might have to play around with it a little bit, but it should look like this once it's all balanced up. And here we have Captain America in our final pose, looking really, really cool. I was actually really excited about this one because I think it's one of the coolest poses I've ever had on this channel, and you could get some really cool shots of this one. The stand in the back is really out of the way, so it'll be easy to edit out of photos, or even if you don't, it's not distracting at all, which I really like. And even if you wanted to have him doing something like this on the shelf, I think it would work really nicely there as well. In the end, I think it's worth it. So guys, that is gonna about do it for my how to pose video on the Marvel Legends Puff Adder Wave Ultimate Captain America. This figure's pretty dope, and you can get him into some pretty good poses, although I think the articulation could definitely be a lot better. I did see some people doing mods on the torso to get that to move forward a bit more, so if you wanted to do something like that, that's always an option. But ultimately, I think this figure looks really good, so I'm inclined to like it. But I'll talk more about that in the full review, so stay tuned for that. If you enjoyed the video, please leave a like. It really does help this channel out. And if you haven't subscribed already, I'd really recommend it because subscribing to this channel gives you free lifetime virtual access to my collection. And I don't know about you, but that sounds like a pretty good deal to me. All right, guys, have a fantastic day, and I'll see you guys in the next one.